Thank you for joining us. Today we have my E-Revo on the table. We got this in trade a while back, had some fun with it on 4S, threw some 6S in it, and ran into a problem. So we're going to address that problem today. A little bit about the E-Revo first. So I traded for this. Whenever I got it, did not come with a body, so I threw on this Parma body here. This is off an old monster truck I had, a Clodbuster. You may remember seeing that ThunderTech Clod in the snow video. And there she is. Good looking little truck here. Whenever I got it, it came with the upgraded shock rods here, steering rods, bulkhead brace, as well as the steering assembly under here and skid plates, front and rear. Also has RPM arms, and I believe the front shafts are the upgraded shafts and the rear are the standard sliders. And underneath we find standard E-Revo fare. Waterproof electronics, Castle power. Good fun little truck here. The problem that we're going to find is right in here. On 4S it did great. I put it on 6S power. Apparently I did not slip or tight enough and it destroyed the spur gear. So, a common problem with these, slipper starts slipping, creates a lot of heat, melts the middle out of the spur. So we're going to go ahead and replace that today. What we're going to go with is this right here to start with. This is the stock setup out of an E-Revo. I bought this off eBay. It's a takeoff out of a brand new E-Revo. Includes the whole slipper clutch assembly, pads and everything, mount, the whole 9 yards, and the spur gear that I need. The reason why I went this route is I decided just to replace everything. But I'm not going to use these pads. Instead of the stock slippers pads, I'm going to use this. Part number 4964. This is a T-Maxx brake disc. Seems a lot of people are doing this, and I couldn't really find much, pictures of people doing it or videos on how they went about it, because there is a few little mods need done. So we're going to do this today and upgrade these little it'll be slipper pads into something much beefier, so hopefully in the future we won't have this problem happen again. And here we can see where the slipper got hot. Of course the bolts are mounted into the metal slipper, they're metal as well, they get hot, and it just melts the middle out of the slipper. So what we're going to do now is we're going to remove this smooth the slipper off the truck and to move all this and set it aside. Okay, to remove the slipper on these right here, for in case you don't have the instructions or how to do it, you put an Allen wrench in this hole right here in the end of the shaft to hold it, and then you'll take this some kind of tool, I have this right here, to go onto your slipper nut on the end. And you'll hold this in place and you'll loosen the slipper. That's all there is to it. Just take this nut all the way off. Remove the nut. Spring. If you haven't already, take this bolt out of the motor so you can swing it up out of the way and slide the slipper assembly off. We'll go ahead and pop this off and then we'll prep the new slipper parts. Here's a better look at that spur gear. Here is the slipper disc. It actually doesn't look too bad. A little warped. And here are the pads. Somebody had to upgrade this to metal pads, which was nice, but they got chewed up quite a bit there. And over here we have some debris down in here that's metal off the pads and plastic out of the middle of the spur gear. We're going to go and clean that up too. So then after that we will prep the new spur gear and slipper clutch assembly. A little bit of prep work here for you. This is the stock disc that the slipper pads ride on and rub on. Just to give it a little more bite and to make the slipper work a little bit better, it's good to go ahead and take this and sand it real lightly and scuff it up on some sandpaper. I have some 120 grit sandpaper here. I'm just going to take this face and take off the shine. Give it kind of a swirl pattern as I sand it to give it some rough texture. There we go. I hope you can see that. See a texture pattern in it. This way it takes off the shine, it gives some bite there, so this way the pad doesn't slip on the shiny metal. Doesn't have to be real rough and aggressive with it, just enough to take off the shine. so it's not as shiny as that side. And your pads will ride against that. Make sure whenever you're doing this, you don't put too much pressure on it. You do not want to bend this disc. Now on to the next step. In this next step here, it's not exactly plug and play. First thing we have to do is we have to remove these pads from this slipper. Just pop right off. They sit on these pins. Now our new disc brake pad has these holes in it. And it would be nice if they lined up perfectly, but they do not. As I sit down over top of this, the pins almost line up. The spacing is correct, but the holes just need to be ovaled out just a little bit, opened up so the pins can drop, down over the pins. So what we're going to do here is we're going to line this up with the pins that we need to elongate the holes on, and then we're going to mark these holes with my paint pen, so we make sure that we get the right ones. These two. Like so. And now let's take a drill bit and I'm going to drill those out just a little bit, just enough. They don't need much, maybe 1/2 millimeter, each one at the most. So let's get to that. Okay, I'm going to drill these out and to show you how little I need to go, I'm going to use a step bit here. If you don't have step bits, I highly recommend picking up a set. These will make your life a lot easier. But I'm just going to take it, because it's so close to being the right size, and I'm going to ream it through by hand, just on the first notch there. Go ahead and do that to the other ones. The best part about doing it this way is all the holes are uniform in size too. And now we'll go and test fit it onto our slipper. Almost, just a little bit more. Make sure that's what you do, is test fit after each time, because you don't want to remove too much material. No need to remove any more than you have to. Okay, now let's see if that's enough. There we go. Snaps down over into place. Nice and even. Okay, now we're ready for the next step. This next part here you don't have to do, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. It's because the pins should hold it on, but just to make life a little bit easier, I'm going to pull this off, and on the back of this, I'm just going to put a dab of the E6000 glue. That way it'll help hold the disc on, and in the future when I need to take it off, the E6000, we can take and cut it loose with a razor blade if we need to, like when it comes time to replace the disc. I'm going to use a Allen key here to spread the scoop around. This stuff's nice because it tacks up quickly. It dries pretty solid too. A lot of people use it to fix bodies and stuff too. So we're just going to go ahead and just put it around here where the disc will set. We'll go and put our disc back on. Like so. And now we'll just hold it in place while the glue tacks up. Okay, it's now time to put this back together. Start by putting the pin in the shaft. Next up is our new flywheel backing plate type deal. Swing the motor out of the way here so we can get that on. There we go. Now if you notice, I have the front pointing downhill here, kind of hanging off the table, bracing against my leg. That way whenever I slide the disc on, the gravity will help hold it onto the truck. You could take the motor out to do this, would make life a little bit easier, but I'm not going to do that. Okay, there we go. We now have our disc in. And this is a case here of if you need to consult it, make sure once again you have your handy dandy printouts available. I just want to make sure I got everything going in the right order. Yep. Next up is this clutch pack assembly and spur gear. Until there she is. To make this a little bit easier to put on, you can go ahead and just knock the bearing out of the middle of it unless you pull the motor. I didn't pull the motor, so this will make it a little bit easier to get on. Hopefully. Yep, there we go. And you can just take your bearing, push it on, and center it up into the spur gear. There we go. On my instructions here, it does not show this washer. It's a conical shaped washer. But this washer was on the original assembly behind the spring. So since it was on the truck originally, I'm putting it back in now. I've heard different people say different things online. Some say you need it, some say you don't. Well, we're going to put it in. We're going to say that we need it. Now, whenever you start this bolt right here, this nut on the end to hold this all together, you don't have as many threads to start with as before because the pad is so much thicker. And that's okay. You have enough to get a hold of it, and then once you start tightening it down, you'll have more threads available as the spring compresses. There we go. Now we just tighten it all down. Traxxas says to tighten this down if you're running 4S, tighten down all the way and back off a quarter of a turn. If you're running 6S, an eighth of a turn. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten it down all the way, and I'll back her off about close to an eighth of a turn. I'll back it off an eighth of a turn. Should be about there. Okay, now something you might have to do here. Now as you can see, the pad is much thicker in there. So that means you may have to go and loosen up your pinion gear and readjust it on the shaft so it has good contact with your spur gear. So what we're going to have to do here, we'll have to loosen it up and move it in just a touch. No big deal. Let's go ahead and do that. There we go. Now we got the pinion realigned. All we have to do now is go and put our screw back in our motor mount and hook our wires back up, put our gear cover back on, and we'll be good to go. Everything's buttoned back up, have the cover back in place, motor of course is all tightened down, and she's ready to go. Now this isn't a mod that you can see, it's not bright and shiny like these bars here, the skid plate, nothing like that, but it's a mod that will make the truck better to drive and hopefully make it hold up better. On the upside is, it was less than $20 total for this slipper upgrade. I got the whole slipper package, the stock takeoff unit, complete off eBay for a little over $10, and the T-Maxx 2.5 brake disc pad, or brake disc there. I got it for about $6.50 shipped. So, not a bad little investment for a little bit better performance and longevity. seems that went pretty well. We was only bashing it out there on 4S that time. We're going to let the clutch break in good before we go to 6S power, but so far so good. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Hope you found this useful, especially if you have an E-Revo that you keep blowing slippers on. Everything I've read says this is a good mod to go with, so I guess time will tell. If we have any adverse effects to it, we will post up a video about that, but if we don't post up, assume everything's going good with it. If you have any questions, please go ahead and ask them below. You can comment on this video, or you can hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, any of those, or email. Links for all those in the description below as well. And go ahead and make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future videos. Like, if we do have a problem with this, any future upgrades to our E-Revo, any of our crawlers, build projects, you never know what we're going to do next. So, thank you for watching, and happy RCing.